You've landed at Spark Launch, the guide star for embracing what it means to be neurodiverse. I'm Mike Cornell, joined by CEO of Spark Launch, Chaya. Here, we navigate mental health triumphs and tribulations from all across the spectrum, charting a course through the shared experiences that unite us, and discovering how to embody the unique strengths within neurodivergent and neurotypical alike, igniting your spark and launching it into a better tomorrow. Hello there, I'm Mike.
I'm Chaya.
And today we want to welcome on the show Neel Raikar, a straight-talking, school-hating, people-avoiding, you sound like me, dyslexic 18-year-old navigating the challenges with dyslexia while staying focused on academics. Welcome, Neel.
I have to give a little background about Neel. His mom and I were high school classmates, and I always admired his mother back then and even today. So I'm very grateful for her to have introduced me to Neel. And here is Neel. Welcome again, Neel.
Yeah, thank you for having me here.
So school hating, that's the first thing that stood out. And it actually made me smile when I read that, because I love the fact that you were owning up to it. That tells me that you're not masking, you're not trying to hide, you're being your authentic self. You don't have to like it, because what you don't like it, you're entitled to it. You're entitled to your feelings. And I was thinking, boy, he's so confident in saying that. So kudos to you for that. Tell me, why do you feel that so much?
Well, to start off, I really don't like studying, but I'm like forced to do it. So things I don't. So basically, like being in school, just sitting in class, like hour after hour, listening to various topics, like really like no doesn't interest me, but I like have to go through it. Yeah, and I always like have that one thing in the back of my mind, like okay, I get through this, I get through that, and finally, oh, I get to go home. It's always like my everyday plan to get out of school.
that reminds me of my school days. Because, I was always looking forward to going back home to my room, to my comfort place. And you're going to school because you're supposed to, and it's not because you want to, right?
Yeah. Basically a forced to situation. If it like involves too much brain power, like doing maths, I dislike it. But if it's like doesn't like take too much brain power, like what do you say, history, English, I find it all right.
So you feel where you have to put in a lot of effort.
No, I have no problem putting effort, but I mean, it's like too much. Like in maths, like I'm supposed to think, like these numbers, I'm supposed to add them, then if and all that. Basically, with too much like effort on my brain, it's not nice for me.
How's the dyslexia interact with studying math and dealing with math problems?
Not really. I think it just really like I have a bit of problem concentrating. Like, and maths like thing requires like a certain level of concentration that I have to like keep, and which I find a bit difficult. But now for me, it's more handleable for me to do.
Mm-hmm. It's basically not your interest to.
Yes, not my interest to do math, but I'm forced to. Yeah.
Yeah. That I think a lot of children can relate to that, because they are forced to do X, Y, and Z, whatever that X, Y, and Z. It's different for each person, but you have to do it. And when you're forced to do it, it takes the joy out of learning.
Yeah, if I genuinely find it interesting, it actually becomes like a bit fun and interesting to do instead of the opposite.
Exactly. So let's imagine if you were given a choice with math and not forced to do anything and not take tests. What would you want to do? How would you want to deal with math?
Well, if I hadn't had no online tests, exams, well, I would just really just use the type of math which are like actually like real world use for it, instead of like what do you say, knowing what Pythagoras theorem is, how geometry, finding x, y, and thing. Basically, the things that I can like actually use instead of stuff I may never use is how I would take on math. Yeah.
Yeah, that's always, I think, the biggest issue with math learning. There's all like the extraneous math that, unless we're planning to do something with our lives that directly utilizes the more like calculus and whatnot, we were never really taught like specifically, this is the real world aspects of what you have to learn here and what is helpful for you to learn. And that's really like a different change in motivation, I think, is it's helpful to learn this versus you have to learn this. And I think if we went about learning math in a way that was, here are real world scenarios and we'll learn through doing that. And it also engages, I think, like the neurodivergent mind a lot more because we see the cause and effect of it. It's hard for us to concentrate whenever we don't have like that quantum connection between what we're learning and what it's actually used for.
Yeah. I think the real world aspect of it is so important for neurodivergent people because that's where you get your motivation. And then you work backwards. At least that's the way I work. I work backwards, actually. I realize my brain works backwards. So what is backward? The first point is actually the impact. How is my effort going to make an impact in this world? And then I go backwards. I need to understand it. And in school, we don't have that understanding. Everybody presents it in fact, the opposite, just doing step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and you don't even know why you're doing it. So I completely relate to you, Neel. So tell us a little bit about your background. Where are you speaking from today, and your schooling, all of that?
Well, so far I can remember, I was like, as I was like born, I think premature. That I think caused me to gain my neural deficiencies. From what I can recollect, my milestones, like what do you say, walking, speaking my first words, were all delayed as being as being a neurodivergent. And so as I went into school, I should be very hyperactive, and that's also what caused, I think, my concentration issues. I used to run around in the class, and the teachers had a bit of a hard time. And I remember this one story my friend told me that he was going to do an errand. He saw me out of the class, and in the next period, I was again out of the class. So it's kind of it was kind of awkward hearing this, like remembering this years later when I'm like fully okay and stuff. And so back then, like my reading and writing, it was not like as everyone like was at a different pace. As I think I was more, as was required some bit of concentration. But I went through tuition for like 2 3 years, which really helped me a lot. I was able to like progress through my school life and everything, and I was able to like be a normal person and everything. And that helped me to that with that being with me being normal, I was able to socialize, make friends, and I do what every kid could, but with a different perspective on life. If you catch what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So you had a pretty rough start, even without you realizing it.
Yes, I actually didn't realize that I was causing these many problems to my teacher, that the people around me. Well, when I like started like getting help, I started to slowly understand like I was like causing trouble and all that, but I actually did not know it.
So if I make you look at it from a different angle, you were just being yourself, put into an environment which had a lot of rules, a lot of structure, a lot of aspects to it that you couldn't relate to, trying to fit into an environment where you were not a natural fit. Some children are a natural fit. They will listen to rules. They can be quiet when you ask them to be quiet. But really, you were not made that way. But did you have a choice? You really didn't have a choice.
No, not really.
You were made that way. So the way I see everything, and that's the meaning of the spark launch, is that everybody has that spark, and everybody has a way of being, and we have something to contribute to this world because we are here on this planet. But the system is what seems to be failing the neurodivergent community.
In the classroom setting, I think as I'm going from like first to like 10th grade, I guess it would feel like a more like a, what do you say, like sort of a difficulty concentrating, because like every year there's more complex topics being taught, and you will have to like try to like absorb that. Well, in the Indian syllabus, it's basically you go to like whatever's in a textbook, you will have to like mug it up and then like regurg like vomit it out in the exam, which was like a bit like gave me like headache. And it's a bit, I think people like me would find this very difficult. Like you're trying to remember the whole textbook at the end of the year, and then like put it out on paper, so you can like pass and do the same thing all over again for the past like 9 years and so counting. So really like there was like did not feel great doing it every year.
Yeah, the standardized tests are so stupid in so many ways because, hey, remember that thing you read one day 6 months ago? Could you re-explain it? It's a failure of education systems, especially for those of us who have maybe issues with memory and concentration and don't really intake stuff in the same exact way. Obviously, school is not an easy thing for you, and it's impressive how far you've been able to push yourself despite those issues. Where does your interest lie with things that you want to do? Divorced from the education system, I should say, from school.
Well, I guess my interest other than like have it be mandatory in school would probably just be being by myself and doing what I want, using a computer, using a gaming console, like whatever I like to do by myself without interaction.
So if I make you think a little bit and see if you feel of the impact that you want to make in this world, and just as Mike said, let go of school or degree or interviews or anything. How do you think you would like to make a positive impact on this planet?
I haven't really thought of like making an impact, but like once I get out of school, I'm planning of like probably like getting to a job I like, and probably like supporting my family, all the regular stuff. I don't really like have like a whole vision of, oh, I want to do this to change the world. It's just I just like to do what I want most of the time, basically.
At your age, Neil, I had no idea what I was going to do in life. I did what my dad did. He was a chartered accountant, which is a CPA here, and I wanted to be successful like him. Although, if you look back at his school days, he had a lot of challenges. My dad had a ton of challenges in school, but over a period of time, he learned to pursue his passion. So he studied science, didn't find his passion, and then loved accounting. So with a science background, he pursued accounting and went really far. So if we have this open mindset and allow ourselves to learn from our experiences, we will go really far. So I would say, Neil, if you can give yourself plenty of experience, however you want to do it, in your own terms, that would be great, because experience teaches a lot more than just books.
Yeah, and I will also add on to that. I think interesting thing for like everybody to remember is I'm a big believer in there isn't really any specific point to consciousness and life, I guess, and I find a lot of freedom in that. And honestly, we get very churned up in the question of like, well, what do you want to do with your life, and what do you want adulthood to be like? And sometimes, honestly, it's okay to accept that the answer might just be to be happy in your own way. Like for me, I very much have a bit too much, like I have two options. One is I could live in a box, and if I help one other person feel good about themselves, then I'm pretty happy. I don't really need anything. The other one is I don't need to necessarily do or accomplish anything in life as long as I live day to day kind of fine, and I can, watch stupid movies with my friends or something. I'm also happy doing that. And sure, one is, of course, fulfilling to like the greater world, and cool that I have that. But the other one, yeah, you could argue seems like a waste, but what's wasteful about that if I'm alive on this planet and I'm enjoying every day in like some certain way? It's like sometimes just setting yourself up to be comfortable in your own skin and living how exactly you want to be. It's like I think we get on other people sometimes about like you have to be doing something that's what we call like careers and to be contributing in some way that isn't just like a cog. But some people don't have that. Like they don't have career aspirations. They just have things they want to do that bring them some enjoyment from day to day. So the jobs they do are just to, put food on the table, or they don't have career aspirations. They want to meet somebody, or there's some people who just want to live for like some sort of leisure activity, no matter what it is, even if it's work to one of us. And I think it's important to like point out there's no difference in that. Like you don't have to do something. And that's like such a like weirdly controversial thing to say, but you don't have to actually do anything in life. You can just it sounds weird to say it. You could just survive, and as long as you're like not miserable and unhappy, then you're kind of doing the correct thing. You're being alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also I also do agree with the fact that you can just do whatever you want and just find a job whatever like suits your fancy and everything. Well, I think that's a bit difficult in like the Indian like household. Like you're like people around you and like your parents do have like expectations of you. Like I want my son to grow up, become a doctor, engineer, IAS officer. But you just really want us to do your own thing or be a musician or like work in a company and all that. I think that's like kind of like a I think that's what many people like me in India like find difficult. Like I want to do my thing, but I want to do what my parents want me to do because I want them to be happy. And I want to know that I'm doing well for myself. It's kind of like a red pill, blue pill kind of choice. Either I take one and do what I want, but my parents won't like it, and then it will make me feel not good, or I do what my parents want me, but I actually don't want to do that. But in the end, my parents will be happy.
Yeah. It's really tough finding that perfect formula. And the reason why I say the planet, I mean, I'm not talking about anything big, right? Even just this podcast, the three of us getting together, we are putting out an energy out to the planet. So that's what I was talking about, just putting out that positive vibe because we are speaking authentically. And that itself is very positive and it's inspiring to others. But what is really important, as Mike mentioned, is doing things that are joyful, that makes you happy. The more and more and more you do that, you will then find that love within yourself because you're not expecting others to satisfy that. And what I've realized is what our job in this world, whatever you want to call that, should come from a place of joy. And a lot of people in this world are putting out a lot of frustration into the planet because they really don't like what they're doing. So it's really important is that we should do what we love. And when you do it for others and you take that love that you feel in your heart and do it for others, I feel that's what a job is. It should be joyful and happy.
Yeah, as long as the job you do is like fun. It's not really a job at all. It's just like a really long hobby you have to do every 5 days of the week and everything.
We judge people by jobs so often. We're a very job obsessed society, and I never quite understood it.
Especially in India, like parents will be comparing like, oh, my daughter is a doctor, oh, my son is this, or my son is that, and puts pressure on us, like, oh, I have to do this. All my parents won't be happy, or they want people to be able to brag about what their son is doing, and all that. Is there really? It's like one of many factors when you're trying to like pick a job and all that.
Yeah, because who cares, right? Who cares what other people think? What's really important is, are you enjoying it? So if we let go of that attachment of others and say, okay, and own up to our own interest and our own joy and do that, it'll be amazing, right? If just imagine if everybody in this world did that, it would be a beautiful place.
No high labor turnover rates anywhere. And it'll just be like a highly productive society. Everyone gets what they want, and yeah, moreover, the like benefits the country in the long run.
I agree 100%. If everybody did what they loved, I think we have enough work for everybody and nobody judged each other. And we were not doing things for other people, but we were just doing it for our own happiness and our own joy. It would be amazing. So it's up to us to let go of that attachment.
Yeah, and the whole like thought like, oh, what is this person thinking of me? If I what does he think? What does she think? What does my parents think? Like letting go of that is thing is like a true goal of everyone's life, basically.
You're so wise, Neil. Exactly. Once we let go of that expectation and just do what you love, and then maybe someday you'll say, oh my God, I love what I'm doing. Maybe I can do it for others. And then you learn how to charge them for that, right? and that's what energy is. I feel money is an exchange of energy. We need that. We need to learn how to do what we love and then make money out of doing what we love. We have to redefine money, actually.
Wouldn't that be nice? I'm trying not to rant about capitalism like right now because I really want to, but that's like a 2-hour long TED talk that I'll launch into. I just often think like how often people look down on people who work in fast food, be it's like high schoolers or young people who that's like their first job, you know, but more or less older people who work in fast food and seem to be fine with working in fast food. Not to say they love the job itself, but it's the thing they do so they can then go home and do the thing they actually like to do. I think a lot of society and a lot of the zeitgeist kind of gets wrapped up in the job and thing you enjoy doing have to be like one and the same. Well, your life has to be for the job instead of for yourself. Sometimes a job is just a means to an end so you can go do the crap you like to do. I personally like to read and watch movies and play games and do stupid like jigsaw puzzles and like hang out with friends and listen to music. Like that's really all I want to do, and I'm pretty content with that. I'm pretty content with hanging out with my cat. And for a while, until recently, my career was just, until I started doing peer support stuff, my career was just doing things to put money in the bank so I could vaguely support myself. And honestly, even that I was kind of fine with. I didn't like my job or anything like that. I honestly actually flat out hated that one. But anybody who's ever talked to me knows I still rant about that job, and I lost it in September. But I got to do a bunch of other stuff while that was going on, and that's what I lived for. I've never really connected with the job you do being such a large part of your life that it is like your main being. Like the thing you talk about with other people is your job. Just can't understand that. I have friends who are who are very much the same way. It's like they work really crappy jobs, but unless it specifically pisses them off and they need to vent about it, it isn't something that like enters their mind a lot. We talk about the things we actually like talking about and our passions and arts and stuff like that. Like we don't just sit there and talk about work or think about work, and there's a little bit too much about that, I think, in our world where it's very like job focused, like your life is for your job. And I think that is something that's like very from a capitalistic society. I say I'm still slightly going into it, but capitalistic society and post demagogic society, you know, from where the rich ruled and things like that, where your job was your standing and your job was to essentially create commerce for other people that were above you. And I think our self-worth got very much twisted with that. A lot of these jobs and a lot of the things where it's like, what do you want to do with your life? No one ever asks like, so what would make you happy in life? What do you want to do that would make you happy? It's always like you have a responsibility to absolutely nothing that has to do with yourself.
Yeah. And even the crappy job, whatever crappy means, could be joyful, right? Like just picking up the trash and putting it into that dumpster. Even that job can be joyful if you want to zone out while doing that. And if you're getting paid for it, who cares, right? So I think we should all not be obsessed about this thing we put out there because of our job, because nobody cares. Really, if they judge you, that's their problem, not yours. And so we should find that joy and be brave to say that this is what I love to do. This is what makes me happy. And I'm going to find myself doing it for others somehow and support myself or let others support me. It doesn't matter, but I still feel that will make us feel grounded, just doing what we love. And when we do that for even one person, even for your cat, for instance, you find a purpose in that.
I do work for my cat at this point, I'm pretty sure. I just want to get her really nice litter. That's all I want to do. Anyway, thank you for joining us, Neel. I really like this conversation we found ourselves kind of falling into. This was very interesting. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Neel.
So for anybody interested in listening to more Spark Launch, we are at sparklaunchpodcast.com, sparklaunch.org. I am on Instagram at followshisghost. Chaya is on Instagram at _Spark Launch. And of course, we can always be found on LinkedIn, where I pretend to be a professional. But for all of us, we will see you next time.